So, hi, Deasha. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, you are, you know, everything there is to know about social media. Your company is called Social Treats. And I know Facebook groups is a particular favorite of yours. So I'm really looking forward to digging in and understanding about more about how we can make Facebook groups work for our business and not become a big drain on our time instead. But before we get into that, could you explain to us a little bit about how you got your business started? Because you started on holiday, is that right?
Yeah. So my business actually started in 2016 when I was house sitting in Thailand. And I launched my business. There's a whole run up to that when I left England in 2012. And I spent a lot of time traveling, trying to figure out what it was I was going to do. And I was sponsored in a job in Sydney in Australia. And I went, no, I'm out. I don't want to do this either. So I went to Asia and I started house sitting and I started building my business up there. So I started freelancing and I had been doing a bits and pieces in Sydney. But obviously with my job, I couldn't work outside of my job with my visa and things like that. So I built it all from Thailand was where I started it and launched it. And it grew from there. I spent 8 months in Asia whilst I was house sitting. So if you've never heard of house sitting as well, and anybody who is interested in traveling, it's a fantastic way to go and travel the world and not pay for accommodation and look after other people's animals in their beautiful homes. So I did that whilst building my business because it meant that I kept my overheads low and I could afford to travel and live that way. But I reached a point where I panicked and I got bored and lonely, which everybody always thinks, well, you were living the dream in in Asia and traveling and working, which is it was exciting, but at the same time I was single, traveling and living in these beautiful villas, but on my own. And having the same conversations with people because never was transient. So you're having the same conversation over and over again. And I just thought, I'm over this. I want to go back to England. So I flew back to England and got a job and worked in a digital marketing agency as an account manager and built my way up there. And then again, got the same sort of, this isn't what I want to do either. So started back with my business again and built that up. And I managed to build my business up to double my corporate income before I quit in 2018. And I finally left my job. I had left the digital marketing agency and got another job because I still wasn't confident enough in my business to go all in. So I got another job in a recruitment agency that was remote. So I could build my business with less commute time and on the side of a remote job. And then 6 months after that, I was like, okay, now I'm ready. And finally hit the quit button again and resigned from my job for the final time. And then my business was doing well. I was doing social media management and I was working with 6 and 7 figure business owners to manage their social media across internationally or all over the world. I was working with clients. And then I had a team of 5 people and we managed all sorts of clients. And I managed to double my corporate income in the first year after quitting, which I was super excited about because I also traveled to 8 different countries that year as well. Still not got rid of the travel bug and I can't wait to get back on a plane. But yeah, in short, that is how I started my business. And then I transitioned to coaching sort of 2019 through 2020, purely on the basis that my clients had asked me to start coaching them. I got a contract with Facebook. So I am a lead trainer for Facebook. So I run training nationally across the UK for small to medium businesses on behalf of Facebook as well, running their blueprint training and as part of She Means Business campaign. So that sort of boosted me up in the coaching world as well over any other social media coaches out there. And it sort of bloomed from there.
Fantastic. I love that story. And I love that you kind of started and then you weren't sure and then you were, and then you weren't. And I
Yeah.
think so many people feel that they do have to go all in, and it's kind of like, if it doesn't work, then that's it. Whereas in your case, it was working, but you still didn't quite have that confidence. So, and I think it's great always to have that buffer and that security net, because then you do feel more confident to push the boundaries a little bit more, and not to have so much worry and pressure on yourself. Is that how it felt for you, do you think?
Yeah, I hired my first VA well before I quit my full-time job, because I knew that I wanted to have the business in a place that meant that I wasn't going to have to worry when I did quit my job. Because being a single woman with a mortgage by that point, I was like, I cannot afford not to be able to pay bills. Nobody's going to come bail me out and or help me cover the bills. So I was like, right, I've got to make sure that this business is going to work from day dot of quitting my job. And I'd only bought my house like 3 months before that. So there was no equity in it. There was no buffer, no savings, nothing. So I was like, right, I've got to make this work. And I knew that working full time, I wasn't going to be able to manage all the clients and bring on new clients at the same time. But I also had that vision inside my head. Like I knew what I wanted. So I worked hard for it. Like I worked first thing in the mornings. I took meetings on lunch breaks. I worked in the evenings. I did everything that I needed to do all weekends, because I knew that that was the end goal that I was striving for, to be able to quit and run my business instead.
I love that you had that driving vision that kept you focused, and a goal and a plan. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily have a clear enough vision at the end, when they start. And it doesn't necessarily matter how you reach that vision, but having one means that the decisions you make, the opportunities you grab along the way, are all going to take you in the right direction. So I love that you did that right from the beginning. The other thing you said that I think is really interesting, and it's something that we hear a lot on the show, is people saying, I wish I'd employed a team sooner. Or it's the key thing every entrepreneur needs to do, is to jump in and hire a team before you're ready, almost, because otherwise you get that you stall in the middle. How was it for you employing your first team member? How did you know you were ready, or was it more of a leap of faith?
Yeah, it was more of a leap of faith. I knew that if I wanted to outsource, it wasn't going to be something that I could do. I wanted to outsource somebody that was going to be better at something in my business than I was. And I always tell people that that is the first thing of outsourcing. There's no point in outsourcing something that you can do in your business, especially so early on, like, because you're capable of doing it all and you know you are. So outsource something that is going to make your business better. So I outsourced to a graphic designer. Now I can create things in Canva just like everybody else can, but I knew that having a graphic designer that was going to be able to create graphics that were amazing for my social media management clients was going to take me a step ahead of other people that were just using Canva. So that was one thing. I was like, right, okay, I'm going to hire a graphic designer to come in and do all of the content for that side of things and create all of the graphics. And it would elevate myself against anybody else as well, because then I was creating amazing graphics. So that was one of my first things. Make sure that you outsource to somebody that is better than you at something in your business.
Yeah. And I love that you saw that as your competitive edge as well. That's what you were looking at, is what can I outsource that's going to nudge me ahead of the competition? I think that's a really great way to look at it.
Yeah, because I could do the engagement and I can do that sort of stuff. And I was doing that whilst I was sat on the train or, on the way to work, doing all the things. So I could do that. And I wanted to make sure that what I was going to outsource was really going to make a difference. And then when I was pitching for clients, I was like, I've got a graphic designer who will create all of your stuff for you. So even if you need more freebies or anything like that, then you can send it to me and our graphic designer will create those for you as well. And it made me seem more sophisticated and more advanced than I was at the time as well. Like, it was an elevation thing. I have a team. Like, actually I'm working full time as well, but I've got a team as well. So it's all good. So it really made me hit those 6 and 7 figure business owners, which is where I wanted to. And I always talk about this as well, is the positioning around that, because I knew that to charge the prices that I wanted to charge, eventually I was going to have to work with people that had money. So that was one of the things that I did when I started off, right? I'm going to work with 6 and 7 figure business owners. What are they going to pay to outsource everything to me? So it wasn't just that I was posting sort of 5 times a week and that was it, or engagement and be done with it. I was creating packages that meant I would post unlimited times a week, and I would do all of the engagement. I would create all the content. I would do absolutely everything for them. And that was what they needed as business owners to hand off that side of things, because they had other things to do in their business. So it meant I became that person in their business that they could rely on to do all of their social media management. Also, on the other side of that, it meant that I was working with people that already had a successful business and weren't relying on me as a social media manager to make them sales and do everything else in their business. Because I found when I first started that people would hire me and be like, oh, you can make all the sales and you can make my business successful now because I've hired you. And I'm like, no. That's not how it works. There are a ton of other different things that you have to do. It's not just about posting on social media to make a successful business. And just because you hire a social media manager is not going to magically transform your business into a successful money-making machine. It would be nice, but there are other aspects of that you have to run. And I found being able to position myself that step higher made all the difference, and having that team helped me position myself there as well.
Yeah, and I like how you reverse engineered that you looked at, well, who can pay me for this, and what do they need from me to be able to pay this amount? Because I think lots of people, well, how much should I charge? It's like, well, you're kind of looking at it the wrong way around. You say, I want to make 5,000 from one client. What would it take for them? What would they need to get value-wise to pay me 5,000? Or I want to charge 50,000. So what's worth 50,000 to my ideal clients, and then create that, rather than create something and then say, oh, who should I sell this to? Is kind of the wrong way around. So I really love that you actually took that approach and it really worked well for you.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest things that changed my business and allowed me to quit my job so quickly when I dedicated the time to it, because I was like, I just needed to double my income. I just needed like 3 clients and I was already making more than I was making in corporate. So then it was easy.
Yeah. The other thing you mentioned there, which I think is a really important thing for people to understand, is that social media alone is not going to make your business successful. And I think a lot of people misunderstand this. And it doesn't help that with all these Facebook ads saying, oh, just post this on Instagram and you'll be a millionaire tomorrow, because it doesn't work like that. And there are 2 types of marketing strategy, hunting and farming. On social media is a farming strategy. You put stuff out there and you water it and you nurture it and you look after it over time, and eventually it'll turn into something you can harvest that. But it can take a lot of time. How is there any advice you would give to anyone who was thinking, okay, how can I make social media work and be profitable for my business?
I would say dedicate the time to it and stop with the shiny object syndrome. So many people come to me and they're like, oh, well, I've been looking at all of these things and I'm on all of the channels and doing everything. And I'm like, oh, how are you going to even have time to handle any clients when you do get them? Because you're spending all of your time doing all this content creation on all of these different channels. I'm like, just stop it and focus on 1 or 2 channels that you love being on, and build it from there and have that consistency. So I love my Facebook group. I'm in my Facebook group all the time, and it's a place I like to hang out. Whereas Instagram is sort of my add-on. I'm like, I like Instagram. My clients are on Instagram. It's okay. So I'm on Instagram. I barely touch LinkedIn, and I definitely don't touch Twitter. So I know that the places that I want to hang out in, and that's where my strategy goes into. So, and knowing that and getting really specific on that and what it looks like for you, then scale it from there. But don't scale it until that thing is working, because that's the other thing. People go, oh, well, I've mastered that. I'm like, what do you mean you've mastered it? You've posted 5 times and you haven't got any clients yet. That's not mastering it. That's giving up. So focus on that until it's working for you, and then go on to another strategy.
Yeah. So social media, the obvious part of it is posting stuff. And I think most people know they have to post something valuable. They can't just put buy my stuff all the time, because that's really boring and everyone will run a mile. But what else should people be doing when it comes to social media strategy?
Yeah, so there are a few different posts that I teach people to use. Value is one of them. So sharing or teaching something that is of value to your ideal clients. Agitation style content. And what I mean by this is sort of pissing people off, essentially, and really driving away those people that aren't your ideal clients, but also bringing closer those people that are your ideal clients. So things that really touch a nerve with people, they're like, oh, why is she saying that? Is usually because they're doing it or they're experiencing it, and it's going to either make them resonate with you a lot more, or it's going to be like, no, that person's not for me. And either way is absolutely fine. Like, I've joined groups and I've seen people posting, and I don't swear a lot. So I've got into groups where somebody is swearing a lot, and I'm like, oh no, that's not for me. Whereas some people, that's a total turn on for them. They're like, yes, they're being authentic. I love it. I love the swearing and I love all that. And that's bringing them closer to that person. But for me, it's a total, no, I'm okay, thanks, I'll go somewhere else. So, and that's the type of content I mean. Just stand in your authentic self and know that you're going to piss people off or bring them closer to you as well. So agitation style content and elevation content is a massive thing that I think especially new entrepreneurs miss out on, is bigging themselves up, essentially, like telling people how good you are, whether that's in testimonials, in accreditations, what you've done. And even if you're a new entrepreneur, you can even bring it back to things that you've done in corporate. So if there was obviously you had life before you started a business, relate some of that stuff to the wins that you're getting with clients now, or relate some of that stuff to how you can help people now in the way that you do, and elevate yourself in that stamina. So everybody knows, oh my God, she actually is really good at this. She knows what she's talking about. And this is why. I think people miss that content a lot. And I find a lot of my clients initially come to me and I'm like, you haven't told anybody how good you are at this. Like, nobody knows. Like, you're just saying, come and buy from me. And that's it. And then they don't know anything else. So you need to really elevate yourself and make yourself stand out amongst the competitors. Because
yeah, I think that's really hard to do, especially as women. We're always told to be quiet, not be boastful, stay under the radar. And it's kind of our problem in the corporate world as well, that we don't kind of talk enough about what we do and what we get results from. And I know I'm totally guilty of not having enough of that kind of content on my posts. And every time I go and do it, like, oh, this feels so weird. Is there any advice you can share that will help people kind of get over themselves?
You can always create content that elevates your clients as well. So if your clients are getting massive wins, shout about that. That's also a style of elevation content, because you've helped them achieve that. So I always do that. If my clients are making sales and doing amazing things in their business, I'm like, oh my God, my clients are doing this, this, and this, and how cool is it? Celebrating, and it's amazing. One of my coaches, I swear she must be an alcoholic. She drinks so much wine, because she's always posting about her next bottle of champagne, because she's celebrating things for her clients. Like, my client hit this goal this month, so I opened a bottle of champagne. Like, okay. But it's a nice way for her to elevate herself, in that she's helped them do these things, and also the lifestyle she leads, and what that looks like, because she's helping these clients win as well. So that's sort of double elevation style content, in that she's showing how good her clients are, plus the lifestyle she leads as a result of being able to help all these people as well. So you don't have to toot your own horn all the time. You can toot your clients' horns and big them up as well.
I like that approach. That feels much more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. As women, I think we often rely on not knowing, like, not wanting to big ourselves up and not sharing those things. So yeah, to your clients' horns if that feels easier for you for now, and then shout about yourself at some point as well.
Yeah, and I guess it's like one of those things, like doing videos, where once you start, it starts to get a little bit more comfortable, and then before you know it, you're completely addicted.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think so many people fear the video and the live, a live video gets over 238% more engagement than a pre-recorded video on social media.
Wow.
So a live video is by far the best thing. People say to me all the time, can I just record it first and upload it? I'm like, well, you can do, but these are the stats. So you're going to get less engagement on it if you do. And just man up and do it, and you'll get better at it the more you do it.
And you mentioned that Facebook groups is like your favorite thing, and I know that's one of your areas of expertise. Can you tell us a little bit about how a Facebook group differs from any other kind of social media strategy, and when's the right time to start a group?
Yeah, so starting a group is a big decision because it does take a lot of time. And I always share that I started my first group far too early in my business, and I ended up closing it down and starting a new one because it wasn't engaged. I wasn't in it often enough, and it was just lacking in consistency. So I closed it down and started a brand new one. And starting a group is something you should do when you're looking at scaling your business, not when you're running around still looking for your first few clients. Because I think often people think, oh, well, they've got a group, I should start a group. And I'm like, yeah, but at the moment you're still running around looking for those clients, and this is going to take up a lot of time to nurture the community and nurture the environment and engagement and that sort of thing. So it's better to do it once you've got a steady stream of income, and then launch a group. And with the group, it works in a marketing ecosystem. So it doesn't just work on its own. It can work with your emails. It works with your personal Facebook profile, with your business profile, with your Instagram, with all of your other social media. It works in tangent with that. So it's not just on its own. It's something that I drive everybody that has a conversation with to my Facebook group. And if they're on other social media platforms, great. But where I want them is inside my Facebook group, because that's where I can create a real community sense of feeling. And that's where people become sort of raving fans, because I'm always in there sharing content and going live and doing interviews and all sorts.
Great. So it has to be part of a bigger picture, and don't start too soon when you've got enough time, or when you have a team that can help you keep that going.
Yeah, exactly. I think I still run my group on my own, and because I love it, it's my baby, but it is time consuming. And when you're having lots of conversations, I'm always having conversations with people on Facebook. So that's the other thing about getting systemized with it. Make sure that I have all my friends message me on WhatsApp, my clients on Voxer, and sales conversations happen in Messenger. Because my messenger inbox, I send probably 100 messages a day. So it's just constantly beeping and going. So having a system to manage all of that as well.
So how important is it to have direct messages alongside your group or your social media activities?
Oh, absolutely. It's so important. And for so many reasons. The first reason is, if you're direct messaging people inside of your group or anywhere else, Facebook thinks you're friends. So Facebook is then going to show up your content in their newsfeed higher as well. Whether you are friends or not friends, if they're in other groups, they can see your content higher, because Facebook they're communicating, they must be friends, they must want to see each other's content. So from that side of things, for the algorithms, it's fantastic. For relationship building, again, brilliant, because people feel more comfortable about talking to you about your offers if you're having conversations with them. They're like, oh yeah, I'll just check on my mate Deasha, because she was messaging me the other day anyway, so I'm sure she can help me with this. And I'm like, yeah, I can help you. Let's jump on a call. And then they become clients. Then if I share a post on my social media saying, oh, I've got a space for my one-on-one offer, they're like, oh, I'll just check in with my mate Deasha because we had a conversation last week and she's got that one-on-one offer now. I'll just send her a DM. And I've signed clients that way straight on DMs for $5,000 offers because they've seen my content. I've had conversations with them in the past as well. So building that relationship, it's a much quicker way of building that know, love, and trust factor and converting those people to clients.
So how do you manage the conversation because as you say, it's like being friends with someone, but how do you move away from, oh, we're friends and having a nice chat, to, are you going to be a client of mine?
Yeah, so I make it really specific. So when I'm building my organic funnels, I want to make sure that I'm taking them through a series. So the first thing is if I'm friends with them or not, if I'm connecting with them in another group, to become friends with them. I never cold message anybody. I don't want to, I'm not a cold spammy salesperson in your DMs. I'm never cold messaging anybody, but I'm connecting with them in other people's groups. So if I've shared some content and they're like, oh, this is amazing, and I'm like, yeah, no worries, I'll send you a DM, we can have a bit more of a chat around it, and then I'll send them a message that way. Or if they're inside of my Facebook group, I will send them a message when they join the group to welcome them into the group and let them know that they can introduce themselves and what the rules are, and if they've got any questions as they're going through any of the content, then they can let me know. I also ask specific questions when they join the group. So if I've got a specific training that might help them in whatever their questions were, then I can say, oh, you answered this question here, I can send you to this training. What I want to do when I'm taking them through this system is I want to introduce myself, and then I want to help them. And I just want to come from a place of love and connectivity, like what is it that you need? And how can I help you? Do I have any trainings? Do I have any freebies? Do I have anything that I can send you that is going to be of value, and connect with you that way? And then we'll have more of a conversation. Oh, I have a course that might be great for you, that will help you do X, Y, and Z, whatever they've said that they need. Would you be interested in discussing it? And I'm like, oh yeah, actually, that sounds really good. I really like that. Can we jump on a call? Yeah, great. No worries. Here's my calendar. Let's book in a call.
So 100 messages a day.
Yeah.
How do you keep track of that?
Yeah, so I use software to keep a track of it. At the moment, I'm using a software called Group Track, which has been fantastic. I am in my second or third week of using it. I'm always changing software at the moment to find the best one. I'm like, oh, well, there's a new one, I'll go try that one out. But this one so far is my favorite by far, and it allows you to track each connection. So I can track when I've friend requested them, when I've sent them a welcome message, when I've sent them any freebies or information, and I can track all of that stuff. I can also see, I can auto save messages to send them to them. So I can have predetermined messages that I send to them as they go through my organic funnel, and send those things. So I can see exactly where everybody is as I'm having conversations. And then in the morning, I just go in and see who I need to follow up with, and follow up with all of those people on my list, and then start with sending more messages.
That sounds like magic.
Yes.
Quite often I've started like messaging people and I've had a really good conversation, and then you've got so many messages like, who was, I know I promised something to somebody, but who was that? So that sounds like a great tool.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite tools so far. It's not the cheapest, but it's certainly not the most expensive I've played with either. So it's sort of middle ground. It also syncs with my active campaign. So it's when they join the group, they give their email address, it automatically sends them an email to welcome to them to the group as well. So all of this cool stuff is happening in the background.
So what do you think is the key really to social media success? Is there one thing or a couple of things people really need to know or have or understand to make it work for them?
There isn't one thing that is going to make it perfect. I would say marketing and social media is part of your ecosystem. So I call it slightly different to a traditional funnel, as some of the bigger guys would say on if they were doing ads and click funnels and all of that jazz, where you take people through the top and you ping them out the bottom once they've bought something. Whereas I call my marketing ecosystem in an organic world is more like a circle. So you're having multiple touch points where they get to go round and round in a circular manner before they pop out the bottom, and they get to touch all the different areas. So whether that's in your Facebook group, on your personal profile. So most people in my group are my friends. On my personal profile, I have them on my email list, my Facebook business page, my Instagram, so everywhere, so they can constantly be consuming all of this content and all of this good stuff that's happening. And then when they're ready to buy, because again, people always in different cycles of buying cycles or different buying personas. Some people come into my world and they're like ready to buy instantly, and that's great. And I want to give them that opportunity as well, because I don't want them to be in the traditional funnel style setup where if somebody comes straight in and is ready to buy and you're like, oh no, you have to go through this hoop and this hoop and this hoop, and we want you to jump round the block 5 minutes before you come and buy from us, then I want them to be able to buy straight away. So having that circle system where they can be like, oh no, actually I just want to buy now. Like, great, okay, no worries. Whereas if they need a longer buying cycle and they want to hang around your circle for a while and they want to do all of their due diligence and want to check out everything, then they're more than welcome to do that and hang out in my circle for years if they want to before they buy as well. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I like that you have that adjustable approach, if you like, because as you say, not everyone is ready to buy straight away. Some people know, I need help. Deasha looks like she can help me. Let's do this. And others are like, well, I'm not quite sure if I need help or what kind of help I need, or, you know, they're just not there yet. But once you induct them into your system and keep adding value, having conversations, and bit by bit, they're like, that's the bit I need help with. and I see that with a lot of my clients. Some of them take 2 or 3 years before they become a client. And I can see from the very beginning that I could really help them in this area, but they're not ready. And I don't want to pressure them into that. I can't see that that's going to end up well, because if they're not ready to make the change and put in the work to make these things happen, then that's not going to be successful anyway. It's much better to have that natural, authentic flow of well, it's a relationship, I guess, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that I say. My strength is relationship marketing. It's building relationships and having those connections with people. It's not a system that's going to get you clients overnight necessarily. As you say, some people might be ready to buy as soon as they connect with you. Other people are going to want that relationship building and that connection and building up those connections. And down the line, when you've got the offer that is perfect for them, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm in. Why not? So.
Yeah. So if you were to go back and start all over with your social media, is there anything you'd do differently? Any big lesson you've learned that, oh, well, that's really not something you should be doing? Or is there any big tips?
Understanding the different buying cycles, that has been huge for me, and understanding different people's perceptions. So over the last year, I've done a lot of work on sort of NLP. I'm now an NLP practitioner, and I've been doing a lot of study into the sales psychology and that sort of stuff to understand the different perspectives that people have as they come into your circle, and where you can meet them, and knowing that there's not one size fits all. And I think nowadays, especially in the online space, there's people that say, oh, you have to have a webinar funnel, or you have to have this type of funnel, or you have to have this type of funnel. And that none of that's true, because people are different, and not everybody wants to sit through an hour-long webinar or sit through a challenge or sit through anything else. They're just ready to buy instantly. And me, for example, one of my coaches, she ran a challenge which I signed up for, and I think I watched half of day one, and then I signed up to pay a ridiculous amount of money. Because I am an instant buyer. I'm like, oh, sign up for your challenge and get that value, and I don't even watch the value. I'm like, oh, never mind, I'll just sign up anyway. It seems good after the first 10 minutes. And that's what people are like. Some people are ready to buy instantly, and other people want to watch that challenge. They also want the next challenge and the next challenge before they're ready to buy. So understanding that different buying cycle and giving people the option to buy when they're ready rather than when you perceive them to be ready. And that's the other thing. I made a lot of mistakes starting off, was I assumed that I wasn't valuable enough and that my services weren't valuable. So I would downplay what I was going to charge, like even down to on the sales call, be having a conversation of like, these people don't want to pay me. They can't afford that. So I just make up a price that I would think would be reasonable that they'd want to pay. They're like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds cool. And I'm like, oh, damn it. They were going to go ahead with it anyway. They knew exactly what they wanted. I should have just said what my figure was in the first place. But that comes down to confidence in yourself and knowing that they've already done their due diligence and they know and they expect you to charge what you charge. And owning your power and standing up in that as well, and being confident enough to say, this is what I charge.
Yeah.
And when people say, do you have any discounts? Nope. And then just I'd be in that silence for a moment. And that was really powerful for me to be able to do all of that research, I think, and stand up and say, okay, I understand it now. I know the different cycles. As long as I have constantly got sales content going out, as well as all of the other stuff and all the value, and giving people the opportunity to buy when they're ready, rather than when I perceive them to be ready.
Yeah, I love that. And when it comes to Facebook, I know a lot of people are shying away from Facebook in the minute, or end up in Facebook jail with their groups closed down. Is there some logic behind that, or is it just completely random, as lots of people feel?
Yeah, so there is some logic. There are some instances where there is no logic and Facebook have just glitched and shut things down. Usually, if that is the case, if there isn't any logic, you can appeal. But generally, it will have been something that you will have done that will have annoyed them. And that can even be like, one of my clients was a yoga instructor, for example, and I think some of her content basically said that yoga was going to cure X, Y, and Z. And that is against Facebook terms and conditions because it's not scientifically backed and it's misleading information. But she, as a yoga instructor, was like, I've done nothing wrong. I'm like, well, yoga can't cure that. Like, that's scientifically, it can't cure that. So therefore it's misleading information, and that's why you've been shut down. So there is usually a reason, even if you are so trapped in your own little bubble in your business that you don't see the reason. And it can be as simple as that. You've said something is a cure, or you've said that's not right, or this isn't right. And Facebook are like, that's misleading information. We're going to shut that down. And quite rightly so, they are trying to stop misleading information on Facebook, and they are getting a lot of slack for it in the media. So from a business perspective from Facebook, I understand why they're doing it. From a small business perspective for people on Facebook, it's really annoying. But that is the misleading thing about it. It's trying to create content that isn't going to annoy them. Even down to music, and they've started cracking down on this recently. I had a notification this morning, actually. One of my videos that I posted must have been 3 years ago because I was on holiday, so it certainly wasn't last year. They have now decided to mute the video, and it was just, I think it was me in a museum recording something and music was playing in the background. But because I didn't have the rights to that music, today they decided that that wasn't allowed, even though I posted it 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
So they're going backwards as well. So even if you don't think you've done anything wrong now, you might have done something wrong 3 years ago, and they're then shutting you down from that point of view as well. So being sure that you haven't done anything like that and going back through your content and just making sure that you're still up to date with those terms and conditions and not annoying people is the first thing. Don't act like a bot, because, and like I said, I send 100 messages a day, but I do all of that manually. I don't have a bot or a system that does it for me. And if I do a mass communication, I am spreading that out over throughout the day. And I have built my profile up so that that is a normal occurrence for me. So it's normal for my account to send over 100 messages a day. But if Jimmy down the road started a Facebook account, tomorrow it's probably not going to be normal for him to send 100 messages a day. So I have to build up to that. And that's the other thing about like friend requests. I send a lot of friend requests and accept a lot of friend requests, and my profile's now got 3,500 to 4,000 friends or something on it. But I've built my profile up so that is the norm for me. If adding friends is not the norm for you, don't go ahead and add 50 friends tomorrow, because that's going to flag something in Facebook. They're like, hold on a minute, she didn't usually do that. So add 10 tomorrow, and 10 the next day, and 10 the next day, and then go up to 12 the following week, and do it that way. So systematically teach Facebook what you want to use your profile for and what you want to use Facebook for, and it will learn that and know it's a computer. So don't do anything that is way out of your normal comfort zone. and build on it.
Great advice. Thank you so much.
All right.
So Deasha, you've shared just so much value in the last last half an hour or so. Is there anything specifically that you would like to share with the audience that we haven't covered already?
Ooh, yeah, come hang out in my Facebook community. And there's so much training in there around all sorts, whether that's your personal profile or your business profile or your group or Instagram, whatever that is. Make sure that your personal profile is optimized if you're going to be doing organic strategies. That's one of my big things. I'm like, don't be going out into other people's groups and connecting with people if your personal profile is all shut down and nobody can see any information on it. If you're a business owner, utilize that space. You don't have to open it up like I've done with all of my friends and contacts, but at least have it so that people can see what it is that you do if you're expecting to make contacts from other people's Facebook groups, because people are nosy.
Yes. Or if you're going to join a group, I have 2 Facebook groups, and quite often I don't allow people in because they have such an obscure picture, and I go and click through to their profile and there's nothing there that tells me this is an active business person. So I think, well, how can they add value to my group if they don't tell anyone anything about themselves? So so then I decline them. So it's the other side as well. If you want to kind of go into groups and make those connections, it's really important for people to be a little bit open about what you do and who you are.
Yeah, and there are ways to make that safe. So like there's a training inside of my group where we go into Facebook friends lists and things like that. So if you have kids and you don't want certain people seeing it, you can create that so that's a safe space, so you can share that just with your friends and family. The same with content specifically for your clients or business connections. If you just want to share content to them, you can also do that. You can curate your newsfeed systematically as well, so that you're only seeing other people's. Like my family, bless them, when I first started doing my business, they were like, oh, did you see my post on Facebook? I'm like, no, because I'm not on Facebook to look at what your dog did yesterday. I am on Facebook for business purposes. I'm not aimlessly scrolling through the newsfeed. I very rarely aimlessly scroll through the newsfeed. I have newsfeed eradicator on my desktop, so I can't scroll through it. I am very systematic as the time that I spend on Facebook, so that it is dedicated, strategic time for my business. If people want to send me stuff, then they text me, my friends and family. Text me, don't put it on Facebook. I'm not going to see it.
Fantastic. Deasha, thank you so much. And if people want to learn more about you, what's the name of your group?
Yeah, it's Scaling with Deasha. So it's the same name as my podcast. So you can search for it on Facebook, or you can come listen to my podcast as well. My brand new podcast, Scaling with Deasha, all about scaling your business without the hustle and the overheads.
Sounds brilliant. I love it already. Deasha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.